Hello everyone, how you all? Welcome to India Unveiled. I hope you all are doing good and good. Today, we're gonna complete the episode 16th, which is the history of Goa. Part 3, we'll cover Estado-da-India, Second World War, and many things. So, without wasting your time, let's get started with episode 16.3, the history of Goa. In 1757, King Joseph I of Portugal issued a decree, developed by his minister Marcos de Pombal, granting Portuguese citizenship to all the subjects in the Portuguese Indies, with the right to be represented in the Portuguese Parliament. Pombal, an anti-Catholic Freemason, served the king as the de facto leader of the Portugal from 1750 to 1777. The enclaves of Goa, Damao, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli became collectively known as the Estado-da-India Portuguesia. The first election was held in Goa on 14th January 1822. Three local citizens were elected as members of the Portuguese Parliament. From their first arrival, the Portuguese intermarried among the converted natives of Goa. They produced Luso-Indian offsprings, who were also Catholic. In 1787, some disgruntled priests attempted a rebellion against the Portuguese rule. It was known as the Conspiracy of Pintos. So now what the Conspiracy of Pintos means is, basically, it was a rebellion against Portuguese rule in Goa in 1787. The leaders of the plot were the three prominent priests from the village of Candolim in the Concelho of Bades, Goa. They belonged to the Pinto clan, hence the name of the rebellion. Goa was occupied by the British between 1812 and 1815 in line with the Anglo-Portuguese alliance during the Napoleonic Wars. The viceroy transferred his residence from the vicinity of Goa city to New Goa, today's Panji. In 1843, it was made the official seat of government. It completed a move that had been discussed in as early as 1684. Old Goa city's population fell steeply during the 18th century as Europeans moved to the new city. Old Goa has been designated a World Heritage Site by UNESCO because of its history and architecture. The Goa Civil Code was introduced in 1869 after Portuguese Goa and Damao were elevated from being mere Portuguese colonies to the status of Provincia Ultramarina, which means overseas possession. Now let's head up to the Second World War. Goa was neutral during the conflict like Portugal. As a result, at the outbreak of hostilities, a number of Axis ships sought refuge in Goa rather than to be sunk or captured by the British Royal Navy. Three German merchant ships, the Ehrenfels, the Drachenfels, and Braunfels, as well as an Italian ship, took refuge to the port of Mormugao. The Ehrenfels began transmitting Allied ship movements to the U-boats operating in the Indian Ocean, an action that was extremely damaging to the Allied shipping. But the British Royal Navy was unable to take any action against these ships because of Goa's stated neutrality. Instead, the Indian mission of SOE. Now, what is SOE? Special Operations Executive. Just a secret British World War II organization. It was officially formed on 22nd July 1940 under Minister of Economic Warfare Hugh Dalton. From the amalgamation of three existing secret organizations, its purpose was to conduct espionage, sabotage, and reconnaissance in occupied Europe, and later also in occupied Southeast Asia. against the Axis powers and to aid local resistance movements. And let's just discuss about the espionage, sabotage, and reconnaissance. Espionage is spying or intelligence gathering, the act of obtaining secret or confidential information. And sabotage is deliberate action aimed at weakening a polity, government, effort, or organization through subversion, obstruction, demoralization, destabilization, and division, disruption, or destruction. The many D's I have. And one who engages in sabotage is a saboteur. Saboteurs typically conceal their identities because the fear of getting cut. Now, reconnaissance or scouting is the exploration of an area by military forces to obtain information about enemy forces, the terrain, and civil activities in the area of operations. The SOE bagged a covert raid using members from the Calcutta Light Horse, a part time unit made up of civilians who were not eligible for normal war service. The Light Horse embarked on an ancient Calcutta riverboat, the Phobe, and sailed round India to Goa, where they sunk the Herrenfels. The British then sent a decrypted radio message announcing it was going to seize the territory. This bluff made the other Axis crews scuttle their ships, fearing they could be seized by the British forces. The raid was covered in the book of Boarding Party by James Leeser. Due to the potential political ramifications of the fact that Britain had violated Portuguese neutrality, the raid remained secret until the book was published in 1978. In 1980, the story was made into the film The Sea Wolves, starring Gregory Peck, David Niven, and Roger Moore. Now, the independence movement. When India became independent in 1947, Goa remained under Portuguese control. The Indian government of Jawaharlal Nehru demanded that Goa, along with a few other minor Portuguese holdings, be turned over to India. However, Portugal refused due to Goa being an integral part of the Portugal since 1510. By contrast, France, which also had small enclaves in India, most notably Puducherry, surrendered all its Indian possessions relatively quickly. In 1954, a horde of armed Indians flooded into and took over the tiny land-locked enclaves of Dadra and Nagar Haveli. This incident led the Portuguese to lodge a complaint against India in the International Court of Justice at The Hague. The final judgment on this case, given in 1960, held that Portuguese had a right to the enclaves, but that India equally had a right to deny Portugal access to the enclaves over Indian territory. In 1955, a group of unarmed civilians, the Satyagrahis, demonstrated against Portugal. At least 22 of them were killed by Portuguese gunfire. Later, the same year, these non-Goan Satyagrahis took over the fort at Tirakol and hoisted the Indian flag. They were driven out of Goa by the Portuguese with a number of casualties. On 1 September 1955, the Indian consulate in Goa was closed using this incident as an excuse. Nehru declared that his government would not tolerate the Portuguese presence in Goa. India then instituted a blockade against Goa, Damau, and Diu in an effort to force a Portuguese departure. Goa was then given its own airline by the Portuguese, the Transportes Aéreos da India Portuguesa, to overcome the blockade. The post-annexation, 1961 to present. The territory of Goa, Daman and Diu was a union territory of India from 19th December 1961 to 30 May 1987. Its official language was declared to be Marathi, much to the anger of the majority of the native Goans. After a brief period of military rule, on 8 June 1962, military rule was replaced by civilian government when the Lieutenant Governor Kuniram Palat Kandath nominated an informal consultative council of 29 nominated members to assist him in the administration of the territory. Dayanand Bandodkar of Maharashtravadi Gomantak Party was elected as the first Chief Minister of Goa, Daman and Diu. He attempted to merge Goa with Maharashtra by importing Marathi immigrants from the neighboring state. Goa's population increased by almost 35% in the 1960s due to heavy immigration of Marathi people. But his plans were foiled by the Goa Opinion Poll. Goa Opinion Poll was a referendum held in newly annexed Union territory of Goa and Daman in India on 16 January 1967 to deal with the Konkani language agitation and decide the future of Goa. Now, the state of Goa, 1987 to present. In February 1987, the Indian government finally recognized Konkani as the official language of Goa. Goa was later admitted to the Indian statehood in May 1987. Pratap Singh Rane, who had previously served as Chief Minister of Goa, Daman and Diu, was elected as the first Chief Minister of the newly formed state. Goa has a high GDP per capita and Human Development Index compared to most Indian states. According to Hindu scripts, Goa was originally created by Parshuram, an incarnation of Vishnu, who after winning the war against the Kshatriya warrior caste, was granted the right to claim land where his Brahman caste could live forever. For several hundred years, Hindu dynasties held power over Goa, including the Satavahanas of Kolhapur, a city in one of modern Goa's neighboring states, Maharashtra, and the Chalukyas of Badami in Karnataka, another one from modern Goa's neighbors. In 1312, the Muslims took over, but their reign was brief and was suppressed by the Vijayanagar in 1370, who used Goa with its natural harbors as an important landing site for ships bringing Arabian horses for their cavalry. In 1524, the Portuguese captain Vasco-Da-Gama landed in Goa. He was the first European to ever reach India via the Cape of Good Hope. More Portuguese arrived in 1510, looking to gain control of the spice route from the east, and 2 years later, Goa became a Portuguese colony. In 1542, the Jesuit missionaries followed, led by Saint Francis Xavier. Yes, that same Saint Xavier, only Saint Francis Xavier, whose name is used in many renowned colleges, universities, and schools. So, yeah, he was a Jesuit missionary, and whose preserved body now lies in the Basilica of Bom Jesus, and every 10 years it is placed on the public display. It was not until 1961 that the Indian army took control of Goa and the Portuguese finally left. The Goans, however, did not want to be a part of Maharashtra, and eventually in 1987, Goa was officially declared as India's 25th state. Today, Goa may be India's smallest state, but it's also its richest with tourism, farming, fishing, and up until recently at least, iron ore mining playing the most important roles in its economy. So, let's put a full stop in this episode. Hope you liked this and enjoyed this glorious history of Goa too. Allow me to sign off from here. I'll come up with a new episode real soon. Till then, take good care of your health. Do share if you like this episode, and if you want to listen more such episodes, head up to India Unveiled on every leading platform. Drop your suggestions and anything regarding this podcast on my mail. I'll be mentioning my mail down below. So, thank you so much for listening. This is Rakesh signing off from India Unveiled.